Why is it that the more we relentlessly track our lives, the emptier we so often feel?
Oh, that is the defining question of our time, honestly.
Right. I mean, think about the devices that might literally be touching your skin right now. You've likely got this highly sensitive piece of glass and metal strapped to your wrist, counting every single step.
Monitoring your heart rate.
Exactly. Dissecting your REM sleep cycles. We biohack our diets, we track our macros, and we ruthlessly calculate the ROI for like every single hour of our workday.
We are completely obsessed.
We really are. We turn every waking minute into a visible metric. We surround ourselves with these glowing digital scoreboards, our stock portfolios, our step goals, our follower counts, and it broadcasts this illusion of our earthly value.
Yeah, and it creates this fascinating psychological paradox because we live in an era of total quantification. We
Right.
act as the accountants of our own existence. I mean, we have more data on ourselves than any humans in history, yet, clinically speaking, rates of burnout, existential dread, and just baseline anxiety have never been higher.
It's exhausting.
It is, because we're measuring everything, but we're so often measuring the wrong things. We meticulously weigh the metrics of our productivity, but we completely ignore the metrics of our character.
And that obsession with measurable profit brings up a really profound dilemma. It's, it's the kind of question that hits you in those quiet, sleepless moments at 2:00 a.m.
The ones we try to avoid.
Exactly.
Mm.
If we are optimizing our physical and economic lives so perfectly, what exactly is happening with our metaphysical economy?
That is such a great way to frame it.
Because intuitively, we all know the relentless chase for material metrics leaves us drained. It's a volatile market. Inflation eats your savings. A new algorithm can tank your digital reach literally overnight.
And even the most perfectly optimized body is eventually going to age.
Right. So it forces us to ask, is there something more stable out there?
Which is the ultimate question for any person trying to build a meaningful life.
Hmm.
We are all inherently searching for a currency that is actually immune to inflation.
A completely crash-proof market.
Yeah. Yes. A currency that doesn't fear a market crash, that can't be taxed, and that survives physical death. We want a system that steps away from tracking our economic output and instead actively rewards our empathy, our hidden struggles, and, well, the quietest intentions of our hearts.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We are exploring a brilliant, ancient framework designed to completely outsmart this modern culture of exhaustion.
It's incredibly relevant today.
It really is. So we are unpacking the Islamic concept of Hasanat. Now, it roughly translates to good deeds, but it operates as a highly sophisticated metaphysical currency.
It's basically an entire economic system.
Exactly. And
Uh-huh.
what we're going to do today is bridge this ancient spiritual wisdom directly with modern cognitive psychology and behavioral economics.
Because when you look at the actual mechanics of Hasanat, it's not just mystical poetry.
Right.
It is a highly structured architecture that mathematically rewards human decency.
So to really grasp the genius of this, I think we have to look at the human necessity for structure.
Definitely. Historically, human beings have always needed a way to understand how our actions are valued in the grand scheme of the universe. Exactly. It focuses heavily on the condition of the heart. But with later theological developments, specifically the idea of salvation by faith alone, the concept of systematically earning metaphysical weight through quantifiable actions became somewhat suspect.
Right, because then it looks like you're trying to buy your way in.
Exactly. Good works transformed into a passive fruit of your faith, rather than an active, tradable currency.
So you have Judaism providing the robust structure of law, and Christianity providing the profound grace of the heart.
The strong walls and the beautiful interior design.
Yeah, sticking with the house metaphor. And then Islam seems to step in as like the invisible climate control, the underlying logic that binds the two together.
It really does synthesize the structured action of the first with the inner intention of the second.
But it adds this transparent, highly motivational mathematics to the mix. It tells the human mind exactly what it craves, which is clear metrics, guaranteed rewards, and a design program for growth.
And it democratizes the entire process.
Yes, there's no middleman, no priest to confess to, no institution holding the keys to your spiritual bank account.
It is entirely direct, peer-to-peer with the divine. But, and this is crucial, the way the system calculates is where we have to completely abandon our modern economic logic.
How so?
Well, earthly justice, classical economics, even strict spiritual concepts like karma, they're usually based on a 1-to-1 ratio. Every action has an equal reaction. What you sow, you reap, down to the final decimal point.
A perfectly balanced ledger, 10 units of good gets you 10 units of reward. 10 units of bad gets you 10 units of punishment.
Right, but the Hasanat framework shatters that earthly accounting entirely. It introduces a radically asymmetric mathematics, deeply skewed in favor of the human being.
Skewed how?
It utilizes divine mercy as a systemic multiplier. In this framework, the absolute, non-negotiable minimum reward for a single good deed is 10 times its baseline value.
Wait, just to pause on that. 10 times is the floor.
That is the floor. It's the minimum viable payout for a positive action. And it scales effortlessly up to 700 times or even exponentially beyond that.
Oh, wow.
And the fascinating part is what dictates that multiplier. It has absolutely nothing to do with the monetary size of the deed or how loudly you broadcast it.
So no PR campaigns for your charity work.
Exactly. The scale is determined by the vulnerability of the person receiving the help and the sheer discretion of the giver. If you help someone so quietly that your left hand doesn't know what your right hand is doing, it breaks the upper limits of that multiplier.
Okay, I have to admit, my modern cynical brain looks at this and immediately wants to push back.
Go for it.
Because if the minimum reward for a good deed is 10x, and the penalty for a bad deed is just 1x, which I understand can be erased immediately by a single moment of regret, doesn't that make the universe look a bit naive?
It sounds rigged.
Yes. It almost sounds like a game where the house actively rigs the odds so that you cannot possibly lose. It honestly feels too easy.
I would argue that is the most beautiful feature of the entire system. It isn't naivety at all. It is profound pedagogy.
Pedagogical? How?
Well, the universe is not coded by a distant, petty warden waiting to catch you in a mistake. Think about it. If the system was a strict, unforgiving one-to-one ledger, human beings would be completely paralyzed by the fear of failure.
Oh, we'd never take risks. We'd be terrified.
You would never extend ourselves. This asymmetry is divinely engineered encouragement. It's designed to completely eradicate the toxic perfectionism that keeps us frozen.
It replaces the fear of damnation with a dynamic incentive to just keep trying.
Precisely.
You know, when you frame it as a cure for perfectionism, it completely clicks. It's behavioral psychology at its finest. Positive reinforcement is infinitely more effective at shaping behavior than punitive measures.
Exactly.
But I still struggle with the mechanics of it. If this massive multiplier depends on our sincerity, how does the system account for the human ego?
The ego is the biggest hurdle.
Because our egos are incredibly sneaky. Even when I'm doing something good quietly, part of my brain still wants a little bit of credit. How does this system track the invisible, messy movements of our intentions?
It uses a foundational technology called Naya, which translates to pure intention. This is the absolute bedrock of the entire metaphysical economy.
Pure intention.
Right. Consider our modern epidemic of virtue signaling. Today, someone might donate to a cause or volunteer, but they bring a ring light, film themselves, and post it online waiting for the dopamine hit of social validation.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. On the outside, the action looks beautiful. But internally, the framework views it as completely bankrupt. The moment the applause stops, the metaphysical value of that action vanishes because the reward was already paid out in earthly currency.
Likes and views. The transaction is closed. You wanted attention. You got attention. Zero metaphysical weight.
Exactly. But Naya pushes the value entirely inward. And modern cognitive psychology deeply supports this. We know that our internal framing dictates the psychological outcome of our actions. In this system, the mere silent intention to do good immediately deposits 1 Hasanat into your account, even if circumstances physically prevent you from carrying it out.
Wait, really? Just intending to do it. Let me ground this for you listening right now. Let's say you are on your commute. You're in terrible traffic, and someone recklessly cuts you off.
The classic test.
The ultimate test. Your biological instinct is rage. You want to honk, you want to shout. But if, in that split second, you intentionally restrain your anger, not because you're afraid of a fight, but out of a genuine desire to maintain peace and not add toxicity to the world, you just generated a massive return.
Yes, you did absolutely nothing physically, but internally you moved mountains. It is the alchemy of restraint.
Wow.
You are taking the raw, chaotic energy of the ego and transmuting it into spiritual momentum. And this leads to the most valuable asset class in this entire economy.
Which is?
The kabiyah, or the hidden deed. These are the quiet investments, the anonymous donation that no one will ever trace back to you, the private tears of empathy you shed for a stranger suffering on the news.
Because no one sees them.
Because these actions yield zero earthly return. No tax write-offs, no reputation boost. They yield the most astronomical dividends. They are the purest expression of character.
In the secular finance world, we might call that passive income. But that phrase feels way too transactional here. It's more like achieving a metaphysical resting state.
Metaphysical resting state. I like that.
Like, if your intention before you go to sleep is, I am resting my body tonight so that I have the patience to be kind to my children tomorrow. The biological necessity of sleep is transformed into an act of profound, compensated worship.
It turns mundane survival into spiritual growth.
But we can't always live in that quiet, passive state. Human beings are expressive. When the pressure spikes, when you're having a panic attack or feeling completely overwhelmed by the demands of the day, what is the active intervention? Does this system have a mechanism for, like, acute spiritual triage?
It does. It offers a deeply structured practice known as decode, which translates to remembrance or praise. And the linguistic formulas used in this practice perfectly mirror advanced psychotherapeutic concepts.
Really? How so?
There are 4 primary pillars. The first is the phrase subhanallah, which is an acknowledgement of the absolute perfection of the divine, declaring that the higher order is free of flaws.
Okay, from a psychological standpoint, that maps perfectly onto the science of awe.
Yes.
Neurologically, when a human being experiences genuine awe, whether looking at a galaxy or acknowledging a perfect creator, it actively shrinks the default mode network in the brain. It quiets the ego.
It reduces stress hormones entirely.
It's the profound relief of accepting that there's a perfect higher order holding things together, especially when your own immediate life feels like it's falling apart.
Awe right-sizes our ego. The second pillar is alhamdulillah, which is the expression of ultimate gratitude.
The original gratitude journal.
Exactly. Today, we have a multi-million-dollar self-optimization industry selling gratitude journals. This framework introduced that exact psychological reset over a millennium ago.
That's incredible.
It forces an immediate cognitive shift from agonizing over what you lack to recognizing the sheer abundance you already possess. Then, the third phrase is Allahu Akbar, the declaration that the divine is greater.
Which sounds exactly like cognitive reappraisal and behavioral therapy.
It is.
Whatever is terrifying you in this exact moment, the fear of losing your job, a health scare, a conflict, you verbally remind yourself that ultimate reality is vastly larger than this temporary crisis. You are shrinking the panic.
It is an anchor in a storm. And finally, the fourth pillar is La ilaha illallah, the declaration of absolute unity. Psychologically, this is the ultimate declaration of human independence.
Independence from what?
From modern idols. It is the active vocal rejection of the things that try to enslave us. Rampant consumerism, the exhausting need for external validation, the tyranny of our own desires. And the metaphysical weight of utilizing these phrases is staggering. The ancient equivalencies state that repeating Alhamdulillah 100 times holds the immense societal weight of outfitting 100 horses for a noble cause.
That's massive.
And repeating the Declaration of Unity 100 times equates to the liberation of 100 slaves.
When I first looked at those equivalencies, I was floored. It is an incredibly low time cost, maybe a few minutes of your day, for an astronomically high yield. It's the definition of spiritual leverage.
It really is.
But I know there's a nuance here. It isn't just about mindless repetition, right? Because anyone can mumble a phrase 1,000 times while scrolling on their phone.
Oh, absolutely. The focus is on precision, not just volume. There's this deeply illuminating historical account involving the prophet and his wife, Juwairiya.
Tell me about that.
He left their home early in the morning while she was deeply focused on her meditation. Hours later, he returns, and she is still sitting in the exact same spot, diligently working through thousands of repetitions.
So she is putting in grueling, dedicated hours.
She is. And he tells her with great gentleness that he had recited just 4 phrases 3 times since he left her, and mathematically they outweighed everything she had said that entire morning.
Just 4 phrases.
Yes. The phrase he offered was a highly concentrated cosmic declaration. He praised the divine in the number of all creation, to the weight of the throne and the ink of all divine words.
Oh, wow. It is like comparing a flashlight illuminating a single wall to a focused laser cutting through solid steel.
Exactly.
It validates the human need to know that small, profoundly focused efforts actually matter. You don't have to quit your job and live in a monastery for 20 years to achieve spiritual significance. 5 seconds of pure cosmic focus can alter your trajectory.
And that extreme efficiency is deliberately engineered for the loudest, most chaotic parts of modern life. It isn't meant for the mountaintop, it is meant for the trenches.
Right.
Consider the concept of the marketplace, Dick. The historical marketplace, or, its modern equivalents like the chaotic stock exchange floor, the crowded shopping mall, or even just the endless scroll of an online store.
The epicenter of material distraction.
It is the exact environment where human beings are most likely to forget their higher purpose.
It's the belly of the beast. It is where our culture of relentless consumption tries to swallow us whole.
Right. And because it is the hardest place to maintain your spiritual equilibrium, the framework places an unprecedented multiplier there. Remembering the divine and resisting the undertow of materialism in that specific, highly distracting environment yields 1 million Hasanat and actively erases 1 million negative marks.
1 million. That is just brilliant. While everyone around you in the mall is draining their bank accounts to buy things they don't need, you are making an enormous deposit into your metaphysical account simply by maintaining your internal awareness.
You are actively fighting the entropy of the environment.
And this concept of fighting entropy applies to how we interact with each other too, doesn't it? The reward structure for social interaction is incredibly dense.
Because the system understands that human connection is fragile. The standard social greeting in this tradition, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, which wishes peace, mercy, and blessings upon the other person, it takes perhaps 3 seconds to say.
Right.
Yet it deposits 300 hasanat into your ledger.
Think about the friction of modern isolation. We walk past each other on the street, staring down at our screens, completely locked in our own little bubbles.
This is a lonely culture.
It is. Breaking that barrier, actually looking a stranger in the eye, acknowledging their humanity and wishing them peace takes a microdose of courage. The framework over-indexes the reward for greetings because social cohesion is the glue of humanity.
It absolutely is.
You aren't just saying hello. You are actively rebelling against societal loneliness. I've even read that a sincere handshake physically acts as a mechanism to shed the minor grievances between two people. You literally cannot afford to be stingy with your warmth.
It creates a beautiful, socially binding architecture. And the beauty is that this architecture extends far beyond your immediate temporary interactions.
How so?
It stretches deep into the future through the mechanism of Barakah, which translates to continuous flowing charity.
Oh, I love this concept.
In our secular financial systems, we obsess over compound interest as the primary vehicle for generating wealth. This spiritual framework strongly prohibits exploitative financial interest, but it replaces it with a deeply ethical, metaphysical alternative.
It's the ultimate form of legacy. It's metaphysical immortality.
Exactly that. If you plant a fruit tree today, every time a bird, an animal, or a weary traveler eats from it, perhaps decades after you have passed away, a deposit is continuously made into your invisible portfolio. If you dig a water well, every single drop consumed by a thirsty village yields a reward. And in our modern digital era, this concept expands into incredibly creative territories.
Like writing a piece of open source code that helps a nonprofit organize its data.
Yes.
Or recording a podcast, a deep dive, even that pulls someone out of a dark mental place on their drive home. Publishing a deeply empathetic article. As long as that code is running, as long as that audio is comforting someone, you are generating spiritual momentum.
You are earning a return long after your physical body has left the earth.
But, this brings up a painful thought.
What's that?
What if someone listening to this is 70 years old? What if they feel like they've spent decades lost in anger or materialism and they feel profound regret? Is there a way to catch up, or is it just too late to build this portfolio?
This is where we encounter the ultimate temporal asymmetry of the entire framework. It is a concept called Laylat al-Qadr, or the Night of Decree, which occurs in the final days of the fasting month. The mathematical description of this single night is that it is better than 1,000 months.
Wait, if you do the basic math on 1,000 months, it comes out to exactly 83 years and 4 months.
Yes.
That is an entire fulfilled human lifespan.
The sheer empathy of that math is staggering. It completely levels the playing field of human existence.
Because human logic would suggest that someone who finds their spiritual footing very late in life, or someone whose life is tragically cut short in their 20s, missed their chance to build a substantial legacy.
Right. But this temporal leverage means that engaging deeply with pure intention on this one specific night allows them to mathematically match someone who has lived a century of perfect devotion.
It is the ultimate forgiveness for lost time.
It proves definitively that the system is not designed to exhaust us through endless cycles of labor, but to elevate us through highly concentrated moments of profound grace.
When you step back and look at the entire architecture, the intention, the structured praise, the social greetings, the continuous charity, and this incredible temporal leverage, the overarching philosophy is overwhelmingly optimistic.
It's beautiful.
The universe is not a cold, entropic void where our actions just vanish into the
Yeah.
dark. It is a highly sensitive, deeply compassionate ecosystem designed specifically to help us triumph.
It radically reframes our daily existence. But most importantly, it fundamentally reframes our concept of death.
Yeah.
In this paradigm, death is no longer a terrifying absolute end. It is merely the ultimate audit date. It is simply the moment when our invisible portfolios are finally open and the dividends are paid out in full.
That changes everything.
We are all investors of our own time. The clock is ticking for every single one of us, no matter what we do. The only question that truly matters is what currency we are converting that time into.
Which brings to mind that timeless, grounding piece of advice from the prophet that sums up the urgency of this reality. It's known as the 5 before 5 rule.
A vital reminder.
He advised humanity to value 5 things before they inevitably vanish. Value your youth before your old age. Value your health before your sickness. Value your wealth before your poverty. Value your free time before you become consumed with the busyness of life. And value your life before your death.
It is a profound call to presence. It asks us to recognize the immense leverage and opportunity we possess in our hands right now, today, before the circumstances of our lives inevitably shift.
It is an incredibly powerful lens through which to view our daily struggles. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought to carry into the rest of your day.
A moment of reflection.
Exactly. Think about your own quiet ledger. If the great audit of your invisible portfolio happened tomorrow morning, what hidden, silent investments would you be the most proud of? And more importantly, what seed of continuous charity? A literal tree, a helpful piece of advice, or just a deeply sincere, kind word to a stranger can you plant today that will continue to grow long after you are gone?